Hello, everyone. Hello, Alexis.
Hello, how are you today?
Oh, it's actually, it was a pretty good day. However, the intensity of the day sort of kind of like increased like up until this very moment of about to come on live with you guys. And so yeah, I'm just taking things moment to moment and I'm really feeling the intensity of Pluto retrograde, and we have a Scorpio full moon coming up that we'll kind of just briefly touch on. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling the intensity. I believe the moon is currently in Libra right now, and I'm just gonna like double check as we're chatting. Let's see. Oh no, she's still in Virgo. Okay, wow. Oh, she was with the South Node. All right, so that
Okay.
makes sense as far as like a lot of so basically if there's been a lot of fears or shadow or just heavy energy in general, especially when we think about Virgo, it's corresponds to like health and service and just things going on internally. I've actually pulled the Hermit card 2 or 3 days in a row, so that also makes sense. It's that Hermit energy. So if you've been feeling more introspective, more even critical, like analytical of yourself, you may be feeling that energy. And yeah, that's where we're at. And it's right next to the moon is right next to the South Node, which is the node that connects us to the past, essentially, any karmic attachments. And yeah, so those type of energies. And I guess that really makes a lot of sense. I thought the moon was already in Libra, but that'll be here like in a couple hours. Definitely tomorrow she'll be in Libra. So yeah. With all of that said, how are you doing, Alexis?
I'm definitely feeling that intensity. The last week, I feel like I've been at a constant state of my brain trying to sort and put experiences and feelings kind of like in their proper places. And I've been having a hard time with things, and it's been like very intense. And today I just woke up feeling that intensity and it didn't go away. Like it lightened up a little bit after I had a little bit of a nap before I got on, but there's something about today, man. It just is heavy for me.
Yeah. Yeah, so bear with us everyone with the energy. The energy is definitely slowing down a bit, and I feel this in reference to Mercury moving into Taurus a bit later this week, I believe on Saturday. So all of that like heightened energy and just like a lot of mental stimulation, a lot of ideas and a lot of like active energy within us, and feeling that fire spirit it's going to kind of settle down a bit, and I'm already feeling that, where with Taurus, it's more of like a focus on just existing in the sense of like connecting to your creature comforts, and also just kind of like taking time in, what has already come to fruition in a sense. And what is still coming to fruition, like what's blossoming as we are in the peak of spring. So we're starting to see like the flowers, the tulips, the dandelions. Oh my gosh, the dandelions are, man,
All over.
they're all over. I love them so much. And it was funny. My neighbor, like a week or so ago, asked us, like, how do I get rid of the dandelions? Which I love dandelions, but I was like, you don't like basically just let them do their thing. Cause when you cut the grass, and this is me rambling, but it's just interesting to me when you cut the grass, they're gone. And then they come back like full force. I mean, they're like long, then they're starting to spread their seeds, and it's just
Mhm.
like they've multiplied by like 10, and it's wild. So I might pick some dandelions just for the fun of it, and spread those flowers. That if you spread them at the threshold of your front door, it's also it's like a sign or symbolism of good luck and good fortune.
Ooh, that's
So
good to
I did that a couple years ago. So I might do that again, because they're just like, I feel
I might
like
do
it's
that
the most I've
too.
seen. Yeah, they're really pretty. I had to send you a picture, because there's a picture of Sidori like sitting with them all, like, oh my
Oh,
gosh. And the sun is shining. It's so pretty.
I
So
love that. And that's interesting because I was just talking about dandelions the other day and how I recently found out that there are two flowers the dandelions and the flowers that are mimic dandelions, and you can tell the differences between their like leaf shape and
Yeah.
how it's angled and the length and whatnot. But if you're going to harvest dandelion, and I mean anyone who's listening to this, make sure you properly identify it if you want to consume it, because the
Mm.
false dandelion can make you feel kind of sick.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point. I have to look that up. I want to see what the difference is. I'm pretty sure these are dandelions, but oof, yeah.
You'll know as soon as you see the differences. You'll know, like, it's
Yeah, you
pretty
know right away.
specific. Like, it's not like the flower kind of looks the same, but in the length of
I think I
the
know,
stem
yeah.
and the
I think
leaf
I can
shape and
recall,
everything, you'll
yeah.
be able to tell right off the bat.
Yeah, especially I wonder if they probably populate differently. Like you know
Oh, I'm
how
sure.
the dandelion how it turns like white and then it
Mm-hmm.
just like their seed just spreads. So it probably populates itself a bit differently, but they're resilient. They're
They
resilient as
are.
hell.
They
And I don't know,
are.
they make me think about Taurus and just yeah, I just like they're tough
I
and
love that. It's funny too, because up until like last year, and I
just like disgusted by it. Like she like almost like it was cringy for her or like just icky.
yeah.
Like she had a period where she couldn't deal with lint, like just like
Mm-hmm.
lint
Oh
and dust
yeah.
particles and stuff. So I was like, are you sure? All right, so just to briefly share some announcements, we have two this week. So our upcoming Dream Circle is going to be Tuesday, June 3rd. So it's the first Tuesday of the month. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We would love to have you there. And as always, the registration link is in the description of this video.
Yeah, come and join us. We just had ours on Tuesday and it was fantastic. We always have just such a wonderful time discussing different ideas around dream work, sharing dreams. It's always so much fun. So if you want to join us for next month, June 3rd, go register today. And we hope to see you there.
Awesome. So the second announcement is Dreamigos. We've been talking about this a lot. It's an amazing dream sharing app. It's in its beta phase, so be patient with it. But I really love how intimate the community is right now, and I love going on and I even share my dreams on the dream line. And that's the thing too that we've been talking about as far as like the dream sharing. You can keep it private or you can share, so that we can see it, the dream experts, as well as other people who are sharing their dreams or who are on the app, and you can comment on the dreams. And yeah, I think it's amazing. It's amazing
It
sharing platform.
It really is. And I think one of the things that I found out recently about it is that you can actually upload images of,
Mm.
like, if you are a artist who incorporates your dream work with art, like myself, it might be beneficial for you to upload the sketch or painting or drawing that you did of your dream with your dream, so people can kind of see through your eyes what you're experiencing in a way. It really is such a cool app. And if you download and sign up today and decide to share your dreams with the Dreamline, Urania and I could be one of your interpreters or both.
Yeah.
So go and download that. It is on the Google App Store as well as the Apple Store. It's Dreamigos, Dreamigos. It's fantastic. So hope you
Yeah.
enjoy
Let us
it.
know if you download it, let us know what you think. Just send a comment on this video or the message or the episode on Spotify.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, Jace is here. Jace said, "Made it, ladies." Thank you for being
Hey,
here. Yeah, I'm glad
Jace.
that you're here. This is going to be an interesting conversation. I'm curious of your perspective on our topic tonight. So our topic is parallel universes and dreams. Oh, yes, Andrea's here. Dream Life Connection. She says, "Yay,
Hello.
Dreamigos. Yay." See, we're on it, Andrea. Andrea is also one of the dream experts and working behind the scene as well with Dreamigos. And yeah, it's such a good crew and we love it. So yeah, awesome. All right. So yeah, our conversation tonight is parallel universes and dreams, how they're connected, the experiences that you might have with parallel universes in your dream, in your waking life. As we've mentioned, our podcasts, our live chats are centered around dreams, astral travel, and mysticism. So this definitely fits the bill for that. And I just want to touch on the astrology in reference to dreams. So on Friday, I believe, Luna, the moon, will reach her waxing gibbous phase in Libra. And more than likely, we're already feeling this energy at the moment. As I did mention, with the moon being in Virgo currently, there is kind of our focus is turned inward and maybe being a bit analytical within ourselves. And with the moon moving into Libra, there's going to be kind of a pull towards bringing harmony and balance within ourselves. And also, we might be a bit sensitive to how we show up in relationships. And also the people in our lives are more than likely going to be reflecting what, or actual reminders of things that we have going on internally, right? We're just more aware of it. And this may show up in our dreams. So we might have dreams where people in our like that we're close to might be in our dreams more frequently. There might be some dream themes in reference to relationships and also your own autonomy and how to balance that. And overall, they're just maybe a theme of finding that equilibrium within your dreams, that balance. And then as we move through the weekend, we're going to get closer and closer to the Scorpio full moon, which that is always an incredibly intense experience, I have to say, with the moon in Scorpio in general, and then it being a full moon. There is going to be honestly an opportunity for emotional purging, and we might have very strong water themes in our dreams. There might be a point in which we have an emotional purge in our dreams, which could even look like being submerged by water or just like experiencing this deep transformation that is prompted from whatever dreams we're experiencing throughout this week and into the weekend and into Monday. What are your thoughts about that, Alexis?
I'm just so excited. I can already see some of that water reaction coming in my dreams already. So I already know that there's some emotional purges that I'm going to be going through and experiencing in the dream space. And I'm weary but excited. Wary, yeah, wary but excited. I like always get those two mixed up. I'm excited about the intensity, and I have a feeling that maybe even this might be a time where you might have multiple dreams within one sleep space. Just like going through a lot of things all at once. So that's
Yeah,
my thought on it. I'm excited. I feel like there's going to be some cool dream recordings from
yeah.
both of us.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to reflect on it when we have our dark moon reflections for
Oh,
sure.
yes.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So let's get into the topic for tonight. I'm so excited as parallel universes, parallel realities, which we're going to just briefly distinguish the two if there's any difference. And I'll just say that in my waking life, I have been really diving deep into parallel realities or really focusing how I travel throughout my day, whether it's like during the day and in the dream space, and how I'm kind of in and out of these different realities, universes, timelines, and what have you. And so I'm really excited to have a conversation about this here because it's been in my field of awareness for the past couple of weeks.
I love that. And I'm excited to hear about it too.
Yeah. Mary's here, and Mary says, I'm late, but I'm here. So I am rewinding and starting from the beginning. Good day, all. Oh, that's sweet.
Hey,
Okay.
Mary.
So you're going back into the past. We're going to be in the future. So we'll see you at some point. I'm sure we'll see your comments. All right. So let's go ahead and distinguish the difference between parallel universes and parallel realities, as I was a bit confused when we were talking about it last week, just briefly in our previous episode about deja vu and dreams. We came up with this topic, it came up in conversation. And my thought was on parallel realities, and Alexis was on parallel universes, or at least Alexis came up with the title. So, and it's parallel universes. And I was like, okay, like this is interesting. How are these alike and are they actually different? And so what I came across is that parallel universes are distinct, complete worlds or universes entirely, like whole entire universes. And then parallel realities are different versions of the universe, which so it's basically different copies of the same universe, so to speak, where you can have yourself in these different copies or reflections, as well as like they can be considered different timelines, alternate realities. But honestly, when I spoke about it really briefly with Alexis before we came on live, she had the same, you had the same definition for parallel universes, essentially. It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, and within my like definition that I have, so it's parallel universes, also called alternate universes, multiverse, or parallel realities. And this refers to the idea that there might be other universes existing alongside our own, probably with different versions of events, histories, or physical laws. So I can see where like the differences kind of lie, but it may even be like a very distinct, like the universe is the universe itself, the reality is the existence within the universe.
Right. Yeah. And it's really, when it comes down to it, it's kind of whatever makes sense to you in your own brain. I feel like we're all on the same page. And when I really think about parallel universes or the possibility of it, and I'll probably just refer to it as parallel realities for my own mental clarity. But it's basically for every choice that you make, right? There's a new timeline, there's an alternate reality. Like, so any, like if you're at a crossroads, there's still going to be that option that you didn't choose, say option A, and then the option B that you chose, right? And then how many times does that happen? And when I even think about it, I'm just like, okay, is it always this or that? Like, it's like, okay, I'm this person making this choice, but then are they making more choices, right? And I know I'm this person making this choice. I'm in this timeline. So like I know what choices I'm making over here. So it really kind of can get a bit complex. However, I shared a video with Alexis. I shared two videos, right? So I shared a video from the History Channel that was specific to like the science, which it was from the Universe documentary speaking about parallel universes. And then I sent another video that was of Bashar, which is actually, his name is Daryl, but he channels an extraterrestrial named Bashar. Some of you may be familiar with Bashar. Um, and he was breaking down parallel realities. And I thought it was interesting. And I wasn't really honestly surprised that the guy that was channeling the extraterrestrial actually gave a very like simple, compact breakdown of parallel realities, which was basically the same thing that the scientists were saying in the parallel universes from the Universe documentary. But it was so condensed. It was so straight to the point. And so what I really enjoyed about what Bashar mentioned, and this is the channeler, what they mentioned about parallel realities, which essentially we're changing timelines or realities, which equate to different dimensions, right? And this was also in the documentary as well. But he says that we're changing it like a billion times per sec, a billion times per second, I think is what he mentioned, right? So we're changing it all the time, and it's based on our vibration, right? So when you make a choice, or when you can break it down to when you have a thought, right? When you have a specific thought and it conjures an emotion, whether it's fear or anxiety or excitement and joy, that has a vibration. And so that's going to subtly shift you to another timeline, so to speak. Right. And it's interesting that we're all living our own realities. Like two people can be in the same place at the same time. And the reality of what is occurring in that moment can be completely different. And like when I thought about it in that way, it really made sense to me. I'm like, oh, of course, like we're in all these parallel realities, right? And you see how everything shifts from moment to moment, right? You know when you're in a high vibration and when you're coasting, and you're in this timeline and your passion's like really high and you're very active, versus when you're in another timeline or you're in this emotion and everything just feels very dense and slow. And yeah, so you're in this trajectory. Not to say one is better than the other, but they're just two different levels of realities, or two different vibrations. And what are your thoughts on this?
I find that really interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. And as a Libra, the idea of infinite choices and infinite like options, and it just leading to different things, it really just kind of sits on my brain a little bit heavier than I was prior to this conversation, because I already kind of live with my intention for the most part. I flub up because we're humans. We're never going to be like constantly always very vigilant of what we're doing. It's just we, like you said, move through different vibrations, and we're going to be in different places depending on how we're feeling during that period in our existence. um but I just find this whole concept extremely interesting, just expanding upon what I kind of do in my, I'm very conscientious of, okay, should I do this or should I do this, because it's going to lead to this or it's going to lead to this. I try to always think about that, but it seems like you can do that to such an extent. It could be overwhelming to think about all of the different things
Yeah.
to the tiniest like idea to the biggest. And then what that does to your current timeline, where you're at, and what your future possibilities are, and what are opportunities missed that you can never get back again.
Yeah. Well, and I like that you mentioned opportunities, because when you are in specific realities, and I feel when you're in a vibration where it's like you're in that sweet spot, you're in alignment with just like your own essence and your like highest frequency. And a lot of people will say like your highest timeline, so to speak, but you're in those higher vibrations. So many synchronicities happen. Like the time, I feel like time kind of breaks down too, where it's like if you need time to move slowly, it's moving slowly. If time needs to move more quickly, it's moving more quickly. Like it's just everything is kind of like, I feel like all the worlds, all the universes or realities are kind of condensed into one, right? Versus like when you're shifting in these different worlds. And a lot of us will experience the timeline shifts or like the realities shifting when, say, we have a really good home life, but say we hate our job. So it's like the different realities of like how we're experiencing home and how we're experiencing work, versus like, it could be vice versa, right? Um, and so when those realities are really like in contrast to one another, it seems like you're literally in between worlds, so to speak. And so just to think about this, like one in a non-dreaming space, so in your waking life where we're very conscious, so to speak, this is why it's really important to be like intentional with where it is that you're going, with your perspective, with your energy. It's really it feels like in a sense you have more control, but it's not about having control. You're just in flow, right? Like all the energies are coming together with one, and it's almost like you're in this, what people would say, God frequency, or you're merged within your highest potential, your divine self. And so everything kind of breaks down and you're in that sweet spot. And that's when you're meeting particular specific people, or you're in the right place at the right time and everything's just lining up. And so not to take us down this, black hole or rabbit hole or what have you, but it's like, so is there one perfect path then, if, like you're in that sweet spot versus like all of these different experiences, or realities? Like, is there, you know, what is that sweet spot, right? Is it everything just coming back into one, and it's like you're in the present moment, I guess is the answer to that.
Yeah, and bringing that to like the parallel universes aspect, it's like when we're making certain choices, when we're doing certain things, could we be shifting into those alternate universes without even knowing it, because
Mm-hmm.
the differences are so insignificant to unless you were like looking for it.
Yeah.
So like we're consistently changing and moving into different parallel universes where, you and I have billions, trillions, an infinite amount of versions of ourselves, and our decisions within the present moment change which one we're in, and we just don't know it. So like I could have went to sleep yesterday in an alternate universe, but we'd never know that I changed, like moved into it
Yeah.
today, like depending on the decisions that I made and the actions that I took, the people that I talked to, the direction that I drove in. You know, I mean, even
Yeah.
think about that, like you like getting a almost like a gut feeling that maybe something has is going to happen, and you change your like direction
Yeah.
to work, and there ended up being like a really bad accident on the highway that you usually drive, and like how it would have affected you if you chose that. You may not have died, but you could have been severely injured, an injury that may not be, easy to heal from. And then the trajectory of your life is completely shifted, completely changed. And, are there parallel universes, or alternative timelines where a version of you did do that? But
Right.
you didn't, so you're on this path, but there's a version of you that possibly did. And bringing that into the dream space, like, you know how often do we travel, astral travel, into different universes, parallel dimensions, universes where our decisions led us to a different place, or alternatively, like bigger, so like governmental
Mm-hmm.
decisions that change. So if we have a dream where we maybe where we're lucid, and we feel like we've traveled and it's a war zone, is that a possibility of a of different parallel universe where a government made a bad decision that led to this there but not here, and we're just tapping into it?
Right. Yeah. So that's such a good point, because you maybe indirectly you gave a perspective of how it can be experienced from a very individual, personal level in the dreams, where I chose this way. I went with my intuition, didn't go that way, and this and this happened. And also then that bigger perspective where there's whole entire worlds, collectives, where the government decided to do this, right? And then we went down this road, but on the other pathway, they didn't decide to do that one thing. They did something else, and we went down that road. And that was one of the points presented in the documentary, The Universe. And actually, I'll link the two videos for you all listening if you want to check it out. But basically, they mentioned there's a reality or a universe where the Nazis won World War II, right? And that they didn't. Like, so there's like these different realities. And when I think about it also from my spiritual perspective of what some people speak of, and I'm one of those people that speak about like the new earth and how the planet is raising her frequency. She is releasing karma and such. And so and we're seeing like this strong split. And we're also seeing this big awakening of people doing their own personal healing work, raising their vibration, expanding their consciousness. And we are existing in this dimension or reality that is in alignment with the quote unquote new earth. And it's at a higher frequency where there is a strive towards peace, love, and harmony, so to speak, versus like there's still going to be this particular world that's full of war and chaos happening. But we're not, like, you're just in kind of a space where you observe it, but it's never like, it's almost like you're untouchable to that. And it sounds kind of fucked up in some ways. And also it's just that is what some people will experience. Like you see it going on, but it's almost like you're on a completely different planet. Like you're so removed, maybe like physically, there's so many different ways that that's experienced. And so bringing it into the context of dreams, so basically the quantum mechanics and the many world theories, there are some theorists that see that basically energy is happening at the same time. There's photons that exist at the same time, right? And I'm sorry that I'm not unfortunately, I'm not a quantum physicist. Like, this is something that I actually wanted to go to school for. I want to go to grad school and do theoretical physics, specifically with this kind of stuff. Um, but basically, um, there are possible outcomes of parallel events happening, right? And creating their own parallel universe. And so when it comes to dreams, some theorists that, have the expanded consciousness and can really start to bring it into like even more, to even more or different realms, I should say, of thought, feel that dreams can be the gateway to experiencing these alternate realities, right? And so, I could say one of my dream themes has to do with relationships. It's always been an ongoing dream theme for me. And I will have dreams where I've never like broken up with a certain person, or maybe we're picking up, like we broke up and then got back together. Like it's like different versions of this relationship. And so when I started doing research for this, I was just like, whoa, it kind of freaked me out in a bit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, were some of those dreams like, and I'm going to a parallel universe or an alternate reality? Because it really felt that way. And then you wake up and you're just like, whoa, like it felt
Yeah,
so real. And there was such a strong emotional connection in the dream.
I 100% get that. I mean, when it comes to dreams, they're like multiversal windows, and it could, be your mind tuning in to your parallel self, your parallel worlds. And because dreams are so mysterious and there's not a whole lot of answers around why we have them or what they are, you could really go deep with that. And I've definitely felt in my dream space that I've traveled, and I have no doubt that I've traveled to alternate um, dimensions or timelines. And media actually, I feel, does a really good job at kind of going deep into this in a fun way. I remember the first time I ever thought about parallel universes, I had to be like 10, and I was watching an episode of The Simpsons, and the whole like thing around it was Homer was hiding from Marge's sisters. So he hides behind a bookshelf, and
That's one of my favorite.
behind the bookshelf there's a essentially a door, and he fuses into this door that like when he falls into it, it's this like black hole sucking him deep into it. And towards the end of the episode, he actually is sucked into it, and he is awake in the 3D world, like what would be considered our universe, not the Simpsons, like 2D animated universe.
Yeah.
And ever since I saw that episode, multiverses have just been such an interesting concept. And you see it in shows like Rick and Morty. They go really deep into it. And there
Oh
are
yeah, Rick and Morty.
so many
Isn't
like
it so much fun?
theories.
Don't you guys love it? Oh my
It
God.
is. And that's what's exciting about like Rick and Morty, where like they actually explore scientific theories around these things and kind of go deep into it. But it's such in a stupid way. I mean,
Yeah.
the one episode I watched recently, Rick goes to an alternate timeline where when people um, die in a very specific way, the chemical that is in their body turns their like insides into like a pasta sauce almost, and it's like the tastiest bolognese in all the universes. So, but
Oh
he goes
geez.
to these universes just to go to the morgue and get this sauce and spaghetti to bring back to the universe that he's living in with this current family, and feeds it to them. And it's just like it's like the craziest thing. I mean, even some of the episodes, it goes into like multiple or multiverses, parallel universes, where every time you go there, even if it's like 5 minutes in our universe, it's like 20 years in theirs. So civilizations have built and collapsed, and generations have been born, and you're going to it each time for only like 5 minutes in between. And there's so many interesting medias that cover. I know that Midnight Gospel, if anybody's ever seen that, that's a really cool show that goes kind of into the multiverse dimension, or even like Marvel movies like Doctor Strange multiverse.
Yeah,
I
those are my
mean,
favorite. Yeah.
yeah, it's just so exciting, and it really deepens your curiosity for the possibility, and it makes a lot of sense, especially if you're a dreamer. Like if you're a constant dreamer, you know that you have, like, you know when you are having a dream where you're not just in your own head.
Yeah.
And I find that the idea that you could be fusing, entering, traveling to different parallel universes, or like even like the idea of like opening your eyes or closing your eyes in this one and opening them in another one, and not even realizing that, you
Yeah.
know, not even realizing that it's not your world. It's so interesting. It's such an interesting concept. I love the theories around it. I love the media around it. Like it'll always be like my number one thing to go and
Oh
watch,
yeah,
next to like
absolutely.
paranormal and magic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That Simpson episode that you mentioned, that's I actually bought it on, I want to say, I don't think it was Apple, but I bought it somewhere like on one of my streaming apps, probably like Amazon or something, I can't remember, but nonetheless, like specifically that episode because I love it. Like Homer like falls into the matrix and then into a black hole. Yeah, it was just like, and then Bart trying to get him out, and yeah, it was just it's everything that I love that stuff. So speaking of media, also there are several books that I was unaware of on this very topic. So speaking of quantum physics and parallel realities and dreams, there is a quantum physicist by the name of Dr. Amit Goswami. Hopefully I pronounced that right. So he has two books, The Self-Aware Universe and Quantum Spirituality. And he proposes that consciousness, not matter, is the foundation of reality. And he suggests that dreams may give us glimpses into parallel selves or realities accessed through quantum consciousness, right? So being able to access those aspects within our consciousness that are experiencing a parallel reality. And this kind of goes into the line of thought that I've come across recently, where I've been hearing this a lot recently from many different sources, that our consciousness is not within our body. Our body is within our consciousness, which is like, I'm still trying to, like comprehend that basically. Like, I mean, it makes sense, honestly, for me on a logical level, but when I'm trying to like visualize it and perceive it, like even with like my mind's eye, I'm like, wait, what? You know?
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like we're in like, so again, what is consciousness? We're in this like energy. Yeah. So
almost like what we're experiencing is a projection from the consciousness, like
right,
a very complex material
right.
projection, but a projection nonetheless. And like the idea of that is mind blowing. Like you said, it's hard to conceptualize. It's hard to think about what that, like, really put your head where that might be with like experiencing it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Jace says, my personal belief is that consciousness is what made the universe. Consciousness is source. Yeah. And that's when I'm thinking, it's like we all have our own, like we have our consciousness, like our individual consciousness, and we're continuously expanding that, right? Through our actions, through our learnings, through our practices and all of that, and experiencing life. And then within that grand consciousness, there's like, by our choices and all of these different actions, we're creating these different realities or universe. Like I feel for me to perceive it on an individual perspective, I believe it's like parallel realities. On a bigger collective perspective, I can comprehend it as parallel universe. Not to control, not to confuse anyone else, but this is just the way I'm experiencing it.
No,
Um
I completely get that.
and how I'm expressing it. So there's another book. This one is in reference to lucid dreaming. So the author's name is Stephen LaBerge, Laberge. And he, as far as my research, he's considered a pioneer in lucid dreaming. And his book is called Lucid Dreaming, A Concise Guide Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming. So, while not explicitly about parallel realities, his work shows that consciousness within dreams can be as structured and aware as waking life. So, some dreamers report encountering other selves in lucid states. So, basically, Rick and Morty style, like you're in your dream, you're traveling, and you come across you, and you're you. And I mean, maybe that makes you lucid for sure if you're not already lucid. I know that would definitely catch my attention. I haven't ever experienced that. Have you? Have you ever like seen yourself in a dream
Um,
as yourself, like a separate?
uh, so it's that kind of is confusing because I feel like that brings us to point of view dreams,
Mm-hmm.
where I've had third person point of view where I'm watching myself, but is that the same thing as encountering myself within like a different parallel universe?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I would say so. And when you say it like that, I just recently had, I've had, yeah, I just recently had well, no, that wasn't me, but I know that has happened before. Jace, has this happened to you? Have you come across yourself in a dream, like face to face? Let us know. But yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I should try to dream incubate that experience.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like,
why
I want to
not?
meet one of my, I don't know that. And also that feels kind of scary because I'm like, well, I don't want to meet like a mean
Well,
person.
and that's what I thought of, right? So if I'm thinking of Rick and Morty specifically, like all the Ricks are out to kill all the
Right.
to
Yeah.
prove
No,
that
that's what I
they're
was
the
thinking in
real
that
Rick.
episode.
And like, if I encounter this person, are they going to try to hurt me? Like, I don't know. Do
Yeah.
you have any dreams that you wanted to share that you felt could have been a travel experience to a multiverse, parallel universe, or reality?
I don't know if I like right now, I'm not thinking of one right off the top of my head, but as I mentioned, as far as with um dreams or just like with my dream theme, my personal dream theme with relationships, I'm always having dreams of past relationships where nothing like we never broke up or we got back, like there's different versions of the relationship. And then as I was saying it earlier, i I was also thinking in my mind that it's kind of giving me conflicting thoughts or perspectives because one of my biggest takeaways recently through a lucid dream was that when I tried to talk to my ex, or when I've talked to other people as well that I've known in dreams, and it wasn't really them.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was almost like an avatar, which now, as I'm saying this, and we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but there's also a theory that so we're the creator of our own reality, of our own world. We are the star of the movie. If life is a movie, right? It's all a play, so to speak. Everyone else is like characters in relation to us, but they're not really real, but they are, but they're not, right? And this is all from our own perspective. Like I was mentioning, people could be in the same room doing the same thing or participating in something and have two completely different experiences and stories about what happened, right? So they're in two different realities, two different worlds. So that in its sense also fulfills that for me, that theory. I'm like, okay, this is starting to make a little bit of sense. So maybe it was more clear in the dreaming space that, it was it felt like an avatar or like a shell, but so that's kind of
Yeah.
like my takeaway, my personal dream share on this. What about you?
Well, and that brings me to think about, okay, the idea of dream characters. you have dreams where you can kind of tell that the person is of something beyond you. And then you can tell that the person is within your space. And like, are the NPCs like the avatar, like, is that representative of not, traveling, being more of a construction of your own brain, versus when you have, more of an intimate encounter where the dream person has their own self? Like, could that be a travel? And or them, and before I was thinking that it was a visit from the dream person itself, like that person is
Yeah.
visiting in my dream, but I could actually just be the one visiting that realm. So that's very interesting to
Yeah.
consider.
It's, ooh, we're going deep here. This is some
Oh
Scorpio
yeah.
stuff right now.
Yes,
Scorpio
yes.
and Aquarius in the house.
And of course this makes me think of like, all right, multiple universes, are they continuous? Are they rebirth? You know, do you die and then be reborn into that same line of that same kind of
Timeline or reality.
timeline?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or the
but your
same like
choices are
universe world.
different, and then it
Yeah.
adds to it. Oh
Yeah,
God,
so
this is
this
like,
is like this is goes into the theory that I feel I somewhat resonate with to a certain degree when I was speaking of the Earth, the new Earth. And so a part of that theory also is that okay, if Earth is shifting, if there's like, this hologram, like it's basically there's two Earths, but they're like it's almost like one is, how do you explain it, where it's kind of like this holographic energy where it's kind of separating, but it's like a holographic aspect of it. So basically with the two earths shifting, yes, we're more in like existing together, people that are in alignment with the new earth and people that are in the same dense frequency of like earth, just like tidal earth that is in war, chaos, poverty, all of the heavy dense vibrational experiences. So basically we're existing right now, and this is kind of like together we're kind of in the in between of the shifting. And when they die, when we die, the people that are in alignment with the old earth will die, and supposedly they're saying they would even go somewhere else to a different planet, but basically they're going to experience the old earth, they're going to go with what they resonate with, that's going to be their next life.
mm-hmm.
As far as like if you're even considering having unfinished business and you need to complete that in order to move on, so to speak, right? And then the people that are shifting and aligning with the quote unquote new earth, they are going to be in that reality. So when you're reborn, you are existing within like the golden age type earth, where it's like, we're creating and like basically what earth was meant to be, that experience. If you are in that spiritual perspective of like, we're here to create and have fun and experience earth and the beauty of nature, and experience and create with things with the physical and just have a good old time, right? And really take care of the planet. So basically you're going to be in that existence, and then they're going to be reborn in a different existence. So
that
that is kind of like that whole parallel reality. Like, where do you go again? Do you cycle back to the same universe or world or go somewhere else? Yeah.
that
So
makes me think of like at the end of your life, did you fail the level or did you
right, did you
win the
get to
level? And if you
graduate?
won the level, you get to graduate to the next level, but if you still have to
You
work
gotta
on certain things. But it
repeat
even
it.
makes me think about like what we were talking about before when you were talking about um the vibrational realities. And like, it makes me think, if there are, upwards over 8 billion people on earth, and every person is experiencing their own version of reality, and if that is separating in its own micro way, like a
Yeah.
universal, like if one person is really really miserable and keeps making decisions around their misery and sees life as something really crappy and like can't kind of break from that, versus somebody who is, on a emotional level where they're more appreciative of things and they kind of have broken through some of their issues and can see life for being good and people for being overall good, and it kind of
Yeah.
warps their individual reality, and how separate that is from like parallel universes, like
Yeah.
how that are they stepping more into one universe while you're stepping into the other, even though you're on the same plane.
Yeah.
I
And
just
that's
feel
why it's
like
like, and
there's
it makes more sense too when you think we're all coexisting, like we're in different dimensions, but we're still like physically together, but everyone's reality can be like drastically different. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Even it's wild, but it's,
yeah,
when I think about it, the more I've been thinking about it and also experiencing it, like you can see the extreme, the duality in our environment right now. Um, and like it's easier for some reason to comprehend, like I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like I can see it. I don't know what shifted, but I'm like, okay, like it doesn't sound as crazy to me now.
no, I mean, the older
Um,
I get and the more I experience existence, it raises more questions than I get answers. And
yeah,
I find there's a beauty in that because there is such a complexity to living. And,
yeah,
especially when you're attached to your dream space and you're experiencing in your unconscious a whole different thing each time than what you're experiencing in your waking. And
yeah,
it really just it advances my curiosity. It definitely like makes me more excited and interested. um
yeah,
Once you kind of tackle the frustrations of the daily, you can kind of still be like, oh, but what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and be excited. So I love talking about this subject, and we only touched the surface. We only kind of chit
yeah.
chat. In a
There's
sense, we only did
definitely,
a chit chat around the different ideas, but there's tons and tons and tons of theories, tons. Um,
oh
so
yeah,
it's really
we'll
such an
have to talk about
expansive
it again.
topic. Oh yeah,
Yeah, there are a lot more books on here that I didn't get to. I'll say Jace mentioned multi-dimensional man or multi-dimensional human. That is on here. That's on the list.
ooh,
Yeah, maybe I'll share this list as well somewhere, maybe on social media.
yeah. You can send it to me
But yeah,
too. We'll post. When we post, for this episode, I can leave some books in the comment, or not the
yeah,
comment, the caption below.
awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, was there anything else that you wanted to say? Anything else that you wanted to add that we didn't get to? I mean,
I
there's
just,
so much.
yeah, I was gonna say I love this topic, and we definitely should do, another conversation at some point. We can even hone in on a deeper
Yeah,
like
maybe one of
theory
these
that we
books.
found, yeah, or,
Yeah,
or read the book and do kind of one of our dreams and media
yeah,
episodes, including the parallel universes and
yeah.
whatever feels right when it happens. But I just love this conversation, and I has definitely opened my mind to a ton of new ideas, and I'm gonna probably dream about it tonight.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah, so one of the last things I want to add is that, and I just thought about this, that it can be really a lot to comprehend and to think about. But at least what I take away personally from this is that, as I mentioned, we're shifting between these different realities and timelines, like pretty much like effortlessly, right? Based on our emotions, our vibration, and our intentions. And so, we can always trust that we can shift to a different timeline. If you don't like the timeline that you're in or the frequency that you're in, you know that you always have the power to change that. And also we can really pay attention to what's coming up in our dreams and also do like some dream incubation um around the different realities if you want to. It's so much, there's so much here to play with and have fun with and to explore in this topic and in the dream space. So I'm really happy to see that there were a lot of books
Yeah,
around this topic. I was like, I wasn't actually expecting that. I was like, oh, there's probably not going to be many. And yeah, no, that's a popular topic. So
I'm excited. I'm excited
I'm
to explore
excited.
that.
We're definitely going to talk about this again.
And to add to
So
what you
yeah.
were saying too, there's something really optimistic about the idea that, we may not have control of everything, but we do have some control, and you can use that to your benefit with the choices that you make in your life. Be very intentional. Like, if I have a cup of coffee, am I going to get heartburn? Do I want heartburn? It's just like it's so such a silly little thing to think
Yeah.
about, but even the tiny choices you make a difference, and it can change
Yeah.
your day. It can change your path. So
Yeah.
have fun with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's the butterfly effect,
Hmm.
definitely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And thank you for those of you who are listening to the replay. We would love to hear of your thoughts and your comments. And yeah, we will be back here next week for another chat. Until then, sweet dreams, everyone.
Sweet dreams.